Greetings, booktubers. Welcome back to Grammaticus Books. Welcome to week 2 of Rocket Summer reading event created by Michael K. Vaughan over on his wonderful channel. And I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. Go and check out Michael K. Vaughan's channel and his Rocket Summer videos. And there's a whole bunch of other booktubers who are also doing Rocket Summer. Go out, check out your favorite booktubers and see what they're putting up. But Rocket Summer week 2, you're supposed to read vintage science fiction from the 1940s. So I went into my collection. I actually have something from the 1940s. I have Amazing Stories, which is a pulp magazine edited by Hugo Gernsback, the famous Hugo Gernsback. And this is the 1942 October edition of Pulp magazine, Amazing Stories. And I bought this decades ago. I bought it for the artwork. The artwork was just fantastic vintage science fiction artwork. I mean, look at those rocket ships you got the spacemen in it with the laser guns sticking out the front of the spaceships. You've got the Rocketeer here flying above the spaceships with his jetpack on and his bubble helmet. And it is just classic science fiction artwork with all these great colors, these big vibrant colors, and the purple field behind it. And that just sold me on it. But I'd never read it. So Rocket Summer was the perfect excuse for me to break this down and go through and read some of these stories here inside of this 1942 October edition. So how much did this cost? It cost 25 cents back in October of 1942. And for the slim price of 1/4, you got 246 pages of double-columned stories and material in here. There are 7 main stories contained within, and then you got a bunch of other little inserts, little science fiction inserts, and other types of little blurbs, and a lot of advertising. And again, I did a 1939 magazine for week 1, Amazing Stories. And again, the advertisements and the inserts are far more entertaining than the stories. But speaking of the stories, the lead story, the main story here in this issue was Crusade Across the Void. That was the title story by Dwight V. Swain. It was about 56 pages, and it was billed as a novella here contained within the story. And it was entertaining. It was more entertaining than The World Without Women, which is what I did last week in the 1939 issue of Amazing Stories. It was a better story. It's space opera. It was what I would call light sci-fi, space opera, adventurism, and just pure escapism in the vein of Buck Rogers, but even sort of more bombastic and over the top than Buck Rogers. And most of the stories in here are pretty much just pure escapism. It's 1942. The war is raging. Hitler and the Nazis are almost at their zenith. They're close to the zenith of their war victories. And people were looking for some type of escapism from what was going on in the world. And that's definitely what Hugo Gernsback was giving you here in October of 1942. So I'll go to the story here, Crusade Across the Void. And there's the title page of it with a little bit of artwork. Each story got a little black and white artwork to go with it. And you have Crusade Across the Void, scum of the spaceways, the interplanetary police call them. But when they fought for justice, they were one blood with the Crusaders, by Dwight V. Swain. And then down underneath the drawing it says, men of all planets scattered as the trains collided with an awful roar. And there you see all these aliens and humans that are running for their lives when the trains crash into each other, which was an accident designed by our heroes in order to throw off their pursuit. And you have all kinds of space pirates, laser gun beam battles, sword fights, fist fights. You've got space princesses and love interests flying all over the galaxy, evil aliens trying to take over the solar system. They even referenced the head of the evil alien Lundar Society race that is trying to take over the solar system as pulling a Hitler. That comes up in the story. And it's just like it's like a bombastic version of Buck Rogers. And again, this is all just escapism here in this 1942 issue. But like I said, I think the adverts and some of the other smaller sections and features of this magazine were actually more interesting than the stories. Here you have a dandruff advertisement that says, itchy scalp, telltale flakes, ugly scales, it may be infectious dandruff. I didn't know that dandruff was infectious. I suppose there are some skin diseases that are, but I didn't know that dandruff was. And I love the expression of this guy's face right there. That's kind of classic. And then in the back, there's a bunch of risque ads that in 1942 I never would have thought would have been in here. Here's one of them. Beauty, love, etc. around the world. World's greatest collection of strange and secret photographs. And then it has a drawing of a bunch of naked women stretching off into the distance behind silhouettes of famous buildings from around the world up there in that corner. So it's just an excuse to buy photographs of naked women from other countries. 600 large pages, 1,000 revealing photos. And then it gets even more risque. You go to the back panel and you have the Modern Sex Manual illustrated right here. Don't be old-fashioned. Don't be old-fashioned. 1942's sex discovered now, revealed. Got to get up with that modern 1942's sex. In this manual that you get here, which is illustrated, this book will open your eyes. And here it has bullet points of what's contained within it. Blood relation marriage, which just actually cracked me up. The first thing people want to know about is incest. I wonder if Robert A. Heinlein read that one. Blood relation marriage. Sorry, I'm taking a little poke at Robert A. Heinlein. I'm currently reading Time Enough for Love by Robert A. Heinlein, and I've just gone through a whole section where he has done almost an entire novella on incest and interrelated marriages and sex. So it's kind of on my head at the moment. But they got blood relation marriages here in the Modern Sex Manual. How often intercourse, best sex act techniques, other sex act secrets, and intercourse positions. And then it gets into stuff that I'm not even going to repeat on here. And this is 1942. I was really surprised that something from 1942 would have adverts like that in it. And then we'll finish up with something a little more wholesome. You have the flying wing of Pluto on the back cover with this great painting over here. And it says, although Pluto has no atmosphere, this plane can travel above the surface of the planet using an electromagnetic force for propulsion. See page 238 for complete story. And you get that nice little painting there. And you go to page 238, which is almost in the back. And you get The Flying Wing of Pluto by Henry Gade. And it outlines the proposed technology for this flying wing, which it generates electromagnetic pulses that are the opposite of the electromagnetic field of Pluto, so it repels itself up, and that gets it to get up to altitude, and then it uses the magnetic poles of Pluto to either pull it forward or to break it, and that's how you steer your magnetic flying wing plane of Pluto. Also, Pluto is hollow and filled with aliens, and this is the plane that they pull out of their underground caverns when they want to fly around, according to the story on page 238. So that is Amazing Stories from 1942, October. It's a lot of just escapism, pure space opera type of fantasy stories that are in it, SF stories, but it was kind of enjoyable to read. It was just like reading Buck Rogers. But that's it. On Friday, I'll have another Rocket Summer video up here, and that will be for a very unusual but highly interesting story there for Friday for the 1940s. So tune in for that one. And with that, I'm going to say take care, be safe, and I will catch you guys next time.